everyone, Wyloch here with something interesting for you this week. The Tabletop Crafters Guild Masters have partnered with Mantic Games to talk about Terrain Crate. These are sets of assorted dungeon scatter terrain. If you haven't heard of Mantic Games, they make tons of awesome games, including one of my favorites, which is Kings of War. Go and check out their website now. Anyway, they sent me a box, and I was curious as to how I could integrate this into my crafting. So, let's go open it up. First impressions, I like the box. Colorful. Like it. Dungeon Depths is the set we're looking at today, but there are others. So I'll get the cellophane off of this thing and crack it open. Inside, there's a couple of trays that house all the pieces, and first impression, they're solid. They don't bend or anything. They're plastic. They appear to have a lot of detail. Here's a bag with tons of the really tiny bits. I figured I'd lay these all out so you guys could get a full fly-through. I'll go nice and slow. This is every single piece that comes in the kit. Dungeon traps, wood logs, crates. I mean, it's a very good variety. This is plastic. The detail is on par with what I've seen from other major shops, so I am excited to see how they paint up. And on that note, why don't we get to it? Alright, here we go. Going to take some Retributor armor, this is a Games Workshop paint, into the airbrush, and going to tackle one of these treasure piles, just directly on there, not going to prime it. I almost never prime my miniatures, and have never had any issues. This is plastic, so I'm not going to prime it either. So gold, directly on there. That's a good start, so now we're going to shade it. I'm going to use Reichland Flesh Shade and just give it a fairly healthy coat. One thing I've learned in the past year or so is not to be shy when applying shade. It dries so much subtler than when you apply it, so you just got to trust that. If you get short on it, you don't get the right contrast, you get staining, so it's easy to use a shade wrong in my experience. So here I've actually been doing two pieces at once. About an hour later, the shading has dried. Nice antique look to it. Last thing I'm going to do is dry brush. This I'm going to use Liberator Gold, work most of it off back on the palette, and then dry brush, and instantly it looks amazing. Now this was my litmus test. This is why I did these first. I really wanted to gauge how good the detail was on these things. A treasure pile has a lot of pronounced detail, and if anything was going to show it off, it's these. So awesome. I'll finish those later. Now, in going through all this stuff, I thought to myself, a lot of these bits would be great as clip-on features, so like a shortcut. So let's do that. First, we'll make up the clip-on blank. We've done this many times in the past on the channel, but for completeness, I'll blast through it real quick. Get a chunk of double corrugated cardboard, and then take some chipboard. This is Graphics Medium chipboard. See the link in the description for my affiliate link. It's an easy, totally free way to support the channel if you like. Anyway, cut 2 slabs of chipboard, and these need to be a 1/2 inch longer than the centerpiece in one direction. And hot glue them on like this so you have a 1/2 inch long clip on one side. And then with some cereal box or other cardstock, just hot glue it to cover that corrugation. Paint it solid black, just cheap acrylic craft paint. Then with a bit of kitchen sponge, dab on some dark gray, bleed off most of the paint onto the paper to get a fine stone-like speckle. Then with a lighter gray, sponge on a little more. So that's our standard clip-on blank, to which we can attach whatever feature we like. So this looks like a trap square of some kind. I envision it as a panel that's opened in the wall and poison darts are flying out. So I'm going to base it with some standard gray. Then give it a wash with black. This is Army Painter Dark Tone, but GW Nuln Oil would work, any black wash. And when that's totally dry, we're going to do a quick dry brush with a light gray. Easy. Then I'll paint the recess with plain black, and finally some green for those dart tips. Then I just hot glued it onto the clip-on blank. And this was a nice piece. It looks like a mirror or a picture frame, so I based it with a shimmering metallic silver. Then did the same gold recipe we did earlier. Retributor armor, Reichland Flesh Shade, Liberator Gold. And again, hot glue it to the clip-on. Another piece that intrigued me was this banner, but rather than do it as a clip-on, I wanted to be able to place it like in the center of the room, freestanding. So, 1-inch washer, trace it onto some cereal box or other cardstock, and then super glue them together. Hot glue is not very effective on smooth metal, so I use super glue. Chop a length of kebab skewer and super glue that to the banner. Again, hot glue is not very effective here on the smooth plastic. And then just some random bead to help holster the post. I'm going to hot glue that to the base and then fill it with hot glue and stick the post into it. I wanted to do a nice gradient on the banner, so to the airbrush, this is a light blue. I'm going to do a solid base coat, just 2 light passes for a smooth finish. The second color is a deep blue, but since this is a large area, I did an intermediate step, which was a 50-50 mix of the 2 colors. Sprayed the bottom 2/3 of the banner, and then finally with the deep blue only, I sprayed the bottom 1/3. Since I'm not really an artist, I didn't want to try to freehand the contents of the banner. I had these leftover Eldar transfer sheets, which have great arcane looking symbols on them. So I picked one, cut it out with a sharp knife, submerged in water for a couple minutes, and prepared the surface of the banner with a mixture of varnish and water, and then while that's still wet, slide the decal onto it. Dab off the excess moisture and finish with a light application of more varnish. Then I finished painting the thing, but I'll spare you those steps, it's nothing new. And we're about to go to the table to look at the finished product, but real quick, some reminders. There's a link in the description below for my storefront. It has all the tools and supplies that I recommend. And for all you 3D printers out there, Wyloch's Crafting Vids is sponsored by Heroes Horde, which has an excellent range of high-quality models, including but not limited to all TrueTiles lines, which are OpenLock compatible. Also, check out my modules over on the DM's Guild, and remember, $3 patrons get free copies of all my releases. Alright, if these tiles and clip-ons intrigue you and you're new to the channel, lots of stuff in the backlog. Look at my playlists, etc. And anyway, we'll pop on the mirror, put the tiles in, and complete the room. You can see I also did the rug while I was at it with that same blue motif, because that rug really ties the room together. A couple cardstock miniatures, see episode 9 for that. Anyway, I do think the level of detail here is on par with other major shops, and so, you know, if you do the math, these come out to a little over $1 per model for these 73 pieces, and I do think that's worth it. You get a good variety. There's no repeats of anything, which could be a positive or a negative for you, just depending what you're trying to do. But these are a useful shortcut. So there's certain things with crafting, with doing found objects, that we just can't quite get to with the ultra fine level of detail. And these were an interesting experiment to see if such a shortcut would work. So Mantic Terrain Crate, check it out. If you liked this particular project, here's 2 more that you should go check out right now. Also, enjoy this month's community showcase. And don't forget to subscribe and click that bell reminder icon. I am Wyloch, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.